everyone. We look forward to sharing this lunchtime together. Let's actually think of it more as like a coffee break, okay? Let's all pretend like we're in a coffee shop together. We're just going to share some coffee and have a conversation. So that's the tone of this webinar today. And if you didn't know, this is a DMIU webinar, and DMI has been in business for about 35 years as an IMO that's very focused on educating financial professionals like yourself and supporting your needs. But I just want to get started with one number, which is 14, and that's the minutes one advisor almost didn't spend on a review because in his head it looked like 14 weeks of work. So those 14 minutes turned into a $14,000 account, or turned a $14,000 account into a 2 million plus client, $2 million plus client. So that's exactly why DMI is partnered with Advisors EP. They do the legal lift, and we bring the marketing engine along with the marketing engine they have too. And you stay the advisor of record. It's a great program. We want to talk about it. And here to show you how is Katie Knowles. She's the Master Certified Estate Planner who leads AEP, and DMI's own Tyrell Jensen, VP of Annuity Sales. He's got 2 decades of turning messy cases into clean plays, right, Tyrell?
I
And
like that.
yeah, yeah, do it every
Sounds
day.
Sounds
good. Sounds
correct.
good.
I've seen it happen. So again, let's keep this very conversational. You guys jump in with in the Q&A, and I'll be manning the Q&A, and I'll jump in from time to time for Tyrell and Katie. And I think also I'm gonna put up a poll question here in the beginning. We just want to get a sense for where everybody's at with estate planning. So if you don't mind, just chime in on that poll, and we'll have one other question after that too. But Katie and Tyrell, I'm going to let you take it away from there.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Glenn. So like Glenn said, and we want to keep this somewhat informal, just a conversation. Katie and I are going to be chatting. I've got some questions for Katie that I'm going to be asking her, but we'd love to have you guys give us some questions as well. So if something we're talking about either isn't clear, or you want us to clarify something, or you've got an additional question around estate planning, and you want some input from us. We've got one of the experts sitting here with us, Katie. So we definitely want to be able to answer your questions. So this is going to be a little informal. Put those questions in the comments section, and Glenn will chime in and ask us. So Glenn did pop that poll up, which is where are you with estate planning? And so we'd love to hear your responses and kind of get an idea of what you are doing with estate planning within your practice. So as you guys are answering that, I want to kind of just dive in, Katie, if that's all right.
Yeah,
And
go for it.
obviously, Katie, there's a lot of advisors here that probably have zero experience with Advisors EP. This is their first time seeing you, first time hearing about your company. So what exactly do you do, and how does the process work?
I think that's a perfect question to start with. So, a little bit about what we do at Advisors EP. We're here to help you, the advisors. We're here to help you integrate estate planning into your practice in a way that benefits both the client and the advisor. We are a little bit different in that we are a truly turnkey solution. I don't believe that advisors have an estate planning problem. I believe that they have a capacity problem, and that's exactly what we solve for. So we're here to help your clients prepare, review, implement, uh, and fund, and also maintain their estate plans. We help grow your practice through educational events, and we offer lead generation tools and marketing resources that organically help you integrate estate planning into your practice. And through our partnerships with companies like DMI and 8-Digit, we help you host estate planning workshops and seminars that are going to encourage your clients to talk about estate planning in a really natural, again, organic way. And it's going to encourage them to not only talk about it, but take action. So while most estate planning, outsourced estate planning firms that you may have heard of focus on helping clients obtain their documents, we focus we focus on helping clients complete their plans. We
Mhm.
are non-attorney estate planners, so we don't provide legal advice and we don't replace attorneys. Our partners draft the documents and we help clients, where our partners draft the documents so we can focus on that implementation. And
Awesome.
that implementation, Tyrell, I want to, just be clear on how I'm defining that. To me, that is coordinating your financial plan with your estate plan. And
Yep.
and we do that because the reality is that even a really well drafted estate plan can fail just as easily as a poorly drafted estate plan.
Yep. I love that. I've seen that over the years. For those on the webinar who don't know, I also have clients and have seen clients, and I grew up in the industry, part of a family financial planning practice, and uh, really early on in the late 80s, estate planning became a part of our practice, and it was crazy. The reason it was out of necessity. And that was because when we started sitting down, not me, I was still a child, as my father sat down, he started seeing estate plans that were drafted, documents that were drafted, but they weren't funded. So they weren't, quote, executed. And so while the clients paid all this money and there's this beautiful written document sitting there that they had in a binder that was stuck in their, place where they keep their important documents, it wasn't funded. It really had zero benefit to the client. And as we started to see this, we realized, who's following up on this? The attorney drafted it, the attorney handed it over to him, and then it never fully got executed, never got funded. And so it's really just a beautiful doily, as my dad would always say, sitting there on the table, right? And won't really do anything. And so that's the thing. One of the things I love about your company, Katie, is that you help finalize and ensure that it's actually implemented and is there to do what it was drafted to do. So I love that aspect.
Thank you.
So we want to throw out one more poll question. So it's up on the up here for everybody to answer. So it's, do you have copies for at least 50% of your client's estate plans? Just simple yes or no. Which is an interesting question. I think it's interesting because I think with advisors that I've talked to that maybe aren't involved as much on the estate planning side, they'll ask why. Why would I have copies, or why would I have looked over their estate plan, right? Well, why is that important, or why is that helpful? Uh,
Yeah. Have you read it?
yeah,
Have you coordinated it? Have you completed the funding? There's
yes,
there's a few things that need to happen there.
there are, and that's the thing is that if you don't have copies, and I think for those that I've talked to, and Katie, you can chime in on this and tell me your experience with this as well. For those who don't have copies of, when I've had conversations with advisors and asked them around this topic, um, they'll often say, "Well, I don't know why, and I don't even know where to get started with it. Like, what would I do with it? If I read it, would I even understand it? Or it might, might be I don't know the law, so why would I read that? And how would I help with that? Right? I don't know if it's a well executed document or not, because when I read it, I don't know if it's, if it fits the what needs to be done. And so a lot of times people feel, the advisors feel like, hey, that's outside my scope, and so I don't
Mhm.
need to be involved. When in reality, what we're doing as advisors bleed over into that side. And so if we don't have the knowledge and understanding of it, then teaming up with somebody like Katie who does can be helpful, and we can learn the few things that we need to learn, be able to ask the right questions to then know, hey, this is somebody that Katie needs to meet with. There's some issues here. So what's your
With
experience on that?
with the case study that Glenn was referring to earlier on, I think that we could break that up into, as we come across the conversation naturally today, and this is one of those parts. We're talking about whether or not you can ask these questions and feel comfortable about it. And with the particular case study that Glenn mentioned, the advisor I've worked with for several years now, 4+ years, and they're comfortable with these. I say that they're good questions. And they're
Yeah,
good questions because they are open ended questions that are really simple. There's no technical jargon for them. It's just, they're good questions.
yeah,
So, because he knew what questions to ask, he was able to determine, really quickly, hey, this person needs something that's beyond my scope. And I'm just going to take that. I'm going to slide it over to AEP.
yep,
And we were able to uncover so much information. And truly, that client went from a $14,000 account, it was 529 for their daughter, um, to now a client that the asset is managing the AUM that came from the proceeds of a business sale that was happening. We realized that the client had some significant issues with the structure of the sale. We were able to coordinate with their tax professional to help explain how they could restructure this deal that would favor them significantly. It saved them a ton in taxation,
Yeah.
or in taxes. I mean, these are just great questions. So I don't think that you should be afraid to ask good questions. That's your job.
It is. I love that. The asking the questions, honestly, is can be pretty simple. I know sometimes we're a little fearful over asking. There's no reason to be fearful of it, and it's just a simple question. And when you start asking those questions, it helps you determine, hey, this is somebody that needs to talk to Katie, or let's get them in front of Katie, get this resolved. Glenn, I see it popped up. I'm assuming you've got some questions that are already coming in.
Yeah, so your comments prompted this question. So where does the line of practicing something we're not licensed or trained for come? Right? Like, what kinds of questions should they ask? Where's that line drawn? How do you help them to walk into the conversation and the process?
Good
I,
question.
I love that. So my best advice for that specific question is that if you're asking something that pertains to your job, you can ask the question. The difference is, are you asking a question that pertains to your job, or are you giving specific advice, specific legal advice? So if you're asking a client, do you have an estate plan? And they say, yes, a natural follow-up might be, I'd really like to see a copy of it. I want to make sure that your beneficiary designations that are in the plan reflect what are on your accounts with us. And I'd also like to know who your power of attorney financial is. Who is going to be the person that I'll be working with if, heaven forbid, something ever happens to you or your spouse? That is totally okay for you to ask, and you should know the answer to that question. That's
Yep.
one of the reasons why we're asking how many of you have a copy of at least 50% of your clients' estate plans. And if you do, if you're the magical advisor that does, because most people don't, and I mean, if you don't feel like you're alone, that's you and 95% of the advisors that we work with. This is a new thought process in our onboarding strategies and in our client reviews, is really implementing this, but not just, I think a lot of people say, you've got to implement estate planning, but you have to do more than ask, do you have an estate plan? And when the client says yes, you have to dig a little, because I'm
Yep.
telling you, if you are not asking questions about the estate plan, we can talk about red flags later, but there's just a multitude of red flags that you can look for. And chances are, if the plan hasn't been looked at in more than 5 years, you should be asking these questions and bringing this to the client's attention. That's just being a great advisor. And that's what they're paying you for. That's what they want.
It is, and real quick, I see Glenn jumped in. I want to add something real quick first, Glenn. With that, I think Katie, you nailed it on the head. Where, and I believe this to be so true. As advisors, we often say there's this tax side and this legal side that I'm not involved in, but really on the financial side, our job bleeds into those two areas. And we need to at least understand what we're doing, the implications it can have on the legal and the tax side. Just like, recommending to put money into an IRA. Well, why are we putting into an IRA? It has tax benefits. Well, is that giving tax advice? No. That's part of what we do as financial advisors, right? We're giving these recommendations of where they're putting money, and it has tax implications and legal implications. Your point of the beneficiaries is a prime example. And one thing that where I've seen this happen in that when I've asked questions about the estate plan, and I notice that their beneficiaries in the estate plan vary from the beneficiaries that we have on the assets that I'm dealing with. And I asked the client, so I noticed that your beneficiaries in your estate plan are XYZ, and we have ABC. And they said, oh, XYZ is my beneficiaries on those? I thought I had changed that, or that's not what I wanted anymore. Oh, well, maybe we need to work with somebody to get those corrected then. So are the beneficiaries we have listed correct? Right. And so I've had that happen where they didn't realize that the beneficiaries listed in their estate plans were no longer the beneficiaries they wanted listed, because oftentimes those estate plans are not reviewed by the estate planning professionals who set them up. And so then nobody reviews it. And so it can be something that we can help the client. And while it's not necessarily our specific job, I think it bleeds into some of the responsibility that we have as their advisors to ensure that our financial plan, it coincides with their legal and their tax plan as well.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Tyrell. We have in our process and in our advisor resources sections, the back end of our lead gen tool, we've got a wheel in there, and it's a relationship wheel. I'm sure there's some technical name for this, but relationship wheel is what I'm calling it. So we've got this relationship wheel, and we try and teach advisors that they are the center.
Yep.
Everybody else, including AEP, we are on the outskirts of this relationship. We're only one portion, and we need you to be the center integral portion or relationship. You're the quarterback. We're just here supporting you.
Yep.
But you've got to do your job, and you've got to talk to us in order to do that. So, very much we know that we are here to support and to bolster our advisors.
I love that.
Two questions that just came in. I think it might help to give a good foundation of what we're talking about here is what estate planning deliverables are we talking about? Like wills, trusts, which ones? They said, well, estate planning things, right? Because not everybody's versed as you are, Katie, or your
I love this question. Thank you.
But also maybe if you could talk about the service, whether or not it's a fee membership type arrangement, and kind of what the services are kind of at a high level, just so everybody understands the foundation.
I'm making some notes really quick. All right, so I don't forget anything. All right, so estate planning, in our webinars that we offer for advisors, which hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about in a minute, we cover the estate planning 101. It's the educational overview for your clients, the things that help them make a decision versus them just getting a bunch of legal jargon thrown at them. We really do a good job of breaking down what do you need to know and what are the questions you need to ask yourself to determine an answer. And that's what estate plan type do you need? And what the heck is an estate plan? Well, an estate plan is a set of comprehensive documents. And it's not just receiving a will, it's not just receiving a trust. There are other documents that coordinate with those. There are supporting documents or ancillary documents that we use to handle three different sections of your life. And that is while you're healthy and happy and living, heaven forbid if you're incapacitated, and when you eventually pass. So that is comprehensive estate plans, would plan for those three periods of lifetime, a comprehensive estate plan. But estate planning can be broken down into, a ton of different sections, but the two primary being that would be probably the right plan types for about 85% of your clients are will-based estate plans and revocable trust-based estate plans. So we do offer both of those, and it truly is determined by your client which plan type they want. And we've got some great tools for them to help decide, things that they can look at and get a snapshot of, oh, wait, so this wouldn't apply to me, but this would. So that means I need this. Just things to make it easy. I hope I answered that question well enough. Okay, good. And then as far as services go, we offer services for new estate plans. We do reviews for plans that were created outside of AEP and our partners that draft the documents. And then we also offer administration, basic trust administration, trust funding services. We've got workflows available for Redtail users if you want to try and DIY estate planning yourself. And that's kind of an important differentiation. We are not a DIY solution. We are a done for you solution. We are going to do everything for you. So you're going to reap the rewards. And we do ask for your involvement. We need your involvement throughout the process. You're not getting off totally scot-free, but you are doing what you should be doing, which is focusing on the financial planning aspect while we're focused on the estate plan implementation. And that's the difference.
Yep. So the other question kind of was just cost arrangement. Is it, they were asking, is there like a membership fee they pay? Or
No.
Is it service-based?
So there's no subscription fee for our service. Clients pay us just like they would pay the local attorney for their documents. The only time a client would pay, we have flat fee pricing on our website. The only time a client would pay extra is if there are additional expenses that are required to complete their estate plan. Maybe instead of just transferring the deed of their primary residence for a trust-based estate plan, we are transferring multiple properties to the trust. Let's say they have a second or a third home, or maybe they're a business owner and we need to do a business assignment. Those would be some examples of when they would see an increase in plan costs. But for most clients, about 80% of clients, 75, 80%, they're going to pay our flat fee. And again, those are on our website. Our pricing includes, so if you do go to the website later, our pricing includes a mobile notary service that comes to the client. So they get their documents signed whenever, wherever, it's when it is convenient for them. There's no excuses. Everything that we do is designed to avoid excuses and procrastination. So the deed transfer of their primary residence is included for most states. We give each plan a credit of about $350 to work with, and that covers most states' deed transfers. So anything over that, we might charge the client for. There are some states that are just exorbitant for deed transfer prices. And we try and keep our costs relatively low for clients, but again, maintain that they are inclusive of the things that they need to complete their estate plan. So clients pay us, not advisors. We try, and design a flat fee that works for the majority of our clients. Sometimes there are things that run over, but we're very transparent with that. In our client intake, we ask some really strategic questions that help us identify the client's plan price before we even speak with them. So advisors fill out, this 5-10 minute form with their clients before they pass them off to us. And that gives us the information we need. But from that, we're able to extrapolate what the actual plan price is going to be. So when we meet with a client, we can give them some really firm numbers, not oh, wait, now we've got to add this on. And oh my gosh, now we've got to do this. So it's nice to see that all up front.
For sure. Awesome. So, kind of want to jump to our next question, and I think there might be some additional questions coming in that Glenn will probably get to here. But so when there's benefit for your services that advisors are going to see, and the benefit is not only to them but also to their clients. So obviously they get the estate plan itself, right? They get that will or a trust-based estate plan. They get powers and all that kind of stuff, the powers of attorneys, all that stuff done, right? But beyond the documents, earlier you'd mentioned that advisors, often see additional value. Can you explain what you meant by that? What is this additional value that they get above and beyond the documents being done for their client?
Yeah, absolutely. So most advisors that initially come to us are going to come to us because a client needs an estate plan. And we realize that estate planning is one of the most powerful client retention and relationship building tools available. So estate planning, and something that you might hear me say again in the future if you choose to work with AEP, is that estate planning is not just a client service, it's an asset retention strategy. And as we enter the great wealth transfer, which I'm sure everybody's probably sick of hearing about, but it's so true. It's so true. We're seeing trillions of dollars transfer from one generation to the next. In behind the scenes over here, we're discussing the great widow flight. So this is where widows choose to transfer their assets from their current advisor to a new advisor because they don't have a relationship with this advisor. And you might have a great relationship with your primary client, and some of you might have a great relationship with their spouse too, while others might not have that connection. And some clients, it's, gosh, you can't seem to make that connection no matter how hard you try. And, whether it's communication style or just a lack of being able to interact with them. Some spouses just aren't there for you to interact with and develop a relationship, which can be frustrating in itself. But this is a good opportunity for you to change those things. And beyond that, you're not just getting in front of the spouse with us. You are also being introduced to other key parties. And this is adult children, successor trustees, guardians, other beneficiaries, any future decision makers. We're getting you in front of them because, wonderful performance. Yeah, you're on their team. But understanding their estate plan and being a part of implementing that and getting to know those key individuals that we were talking about, now you're family. Relationships are like Velcro. They work until somebody pulls at them. The estate plan helps you become a part of the family and build a relationship that is using super glue.
I love
Yeah,
that.
super glue doesn't let go. Relationship may come apart if somebody pulls on it a little too much. But now picture this. So now you are part of the family and you've got this relationship with the future parties that are inheriting the assets or managing the assets. And the assets aren't drifting away at this point. That is maintaining the assets generationally, and that's the goal.
Yep.
And that's what we do well, is create those introductions naturally for you so you have the opportunity to do that.
I want to chime in real quick with this widow flight. I have seen this over and over and over again, and it's so true that, and I think it's something that maybe give the isn't given enough credit. So what, and I'll explain what I mean. So your husband passes away. Now there's the widow, and she now has to re-examine her everything, right? Her entire life is now re-examined. What is she doing with life, finances, everything, all the relationships, everything, and she's now having to figure things out. I watched my mom go through this 4 years ago. It's interesting because if the advisor, if you guys, the advisors that we're talking to right now, if you're not involved in the estate planning side, and I also say this on the tax side, the tax planning side, if there's an estate planning professional or a tax professional that you're not linked to, that now the widow goes back to because she needs to update her who is her power of attorney. She's going to have, remove take the successor, maybe make them her primary power of attorney. She's going to be doing some stuff. If that estate planning attorney that she's now working with isn't linked to you and she starts asking for their advice, they likely will have somebody that they would refer to and they say, oh, by the way, let's talk through some stuff. Oh, what's going on with your assets? I've got somebody that's really good. She's an awesome person. He's really good at what he does. Maybe you should give them a try. You've now just opened up your client to be taken away because you don't have the relationship with the estate planning side and the tax planning side. So my recommendation has always been you need to have a three-legged stool. It's you, it's the estate planning professional, and it's the tax professional, and you all need to work together. And if you're not that third leg and it's some other advisor is that third leg, when a spouse passes away or when there's a hiccup, those other two professionals might be, going after your client, poaching them to give them to somebody else. And so this really is going to cut that down, that happening. So I think that is so important, and it's such a huge piece to this of that that relationship. I think, Katie, you were so right. And when you mentioned Velcro, I'd not heard you use that before, and immediately I thought of super glue, and like 2 seconds later you said super glue, and I was like, we're on the same page here.
I'm glad you like it. You have
I
some
think,
good ones. If
yeah,
only I could live up to your level of
yeah,
explanations.
yeah.
You're such
Yes,
a-
I think you nailed it there with that the widow flight is huge, and that is a massive missed opportunity for advisors. This is something that can really help eliminate that risk to their practice.
I just heard some just stats from a new survey that was done, and it was what we're seeing now from the great wealth transfer and how that is affecting widows and advisors,
Yep.
and what percentage of widows are actually leaving. And when I heard the number, I was, I mean, I've had my suspicions, and from doing this, I see what I see, but I hadn't seen a number pinned to paper yet, and it's
Yeah.
70%.
It's crazy.
70%. I was just, whew.
And it's crazy that this is true in so many other areas. It's not just for the financial advising. I watch my mom, like I mentioned, I watch my mom go through that. And while her and dad would decide, sometimes dad got his way on something. He was like, I really want to use this person. I really want to do that. And mom's like, okay. And once dad passed away, she's had to say, okay, he's not here to make those decisions. I have to do it. Now, who do I want to work with? And
Mhm.
so it's if you don't have that relationship with both parties, both members of the couple, and one passes away, you're likely to lose that one. So, Glenn, I saw you popped up. I'm assuming there's questions that are coming in.
Yeah, we're getting a ton of questions actually.
Oh, awesome.
And then
Yay.
one point of service here. I added the Advisors EP website to the chat. So if you're
Oh,
looking for
perfect.
the website, I put that in
Thanks,
there.
Glenn.
Yeah, no problem. And then we have a question. Do you provide a fact finder for the client to complete for submission? Most of my clients would not feel comfortable being handed off to a remote service. How would you respond to that?
Well, that's interesting. And I think that, I'm not saying that maybe this has anything to do with the way that they're being handed off, but when you integrate a service like ours, we're partners. and we're familiar with one another, I do a pretty substantial data gathering on our advisors. So we get to know them and we know how your firm ticks. We know how the advisors tick, what your communication style is, what your firm specializes in. We know a lot about you and we want you to know a lot about us too. So thinking of us strictly as a remote service, I think might be a little bit different than how I would think our advisors feel about us. And it's that we're their partner.
Yep.
And they're saying, hold on, this is, you've really, highlighted some things here. I think you need to speak with our partner about this. We've got somebody that handles estate planning. Let me set up an introduction for you with them. And that's the handoff that we're looking for. In our intake, when we initially meet with clients, the one that you're filling out, we're gathering basic contact information. We're asking them to answer some questions without revealing any information that I think would make somebody feel comfortable. A good example is, do you own any properties besides your primary residence? I'm not sure that question is going to make anybody feel uncomfortable or, worrisome about being transferred off to us. And that is the beauty of a remote service. Some clients are not going to respond well to a remote service. If you've got a client that doesn't own a computer, this probably isn't going to be the best fit for them. I mean, we don't want anybody to go down to the public library and sit and try and work with us. We want them to be able to do this from the comfort of their home. And the benefit of that is that they have everything they need in their home already. They're not gathering a bunch of documents, coming down to see us. We're just saying, oh, great, you need to take a minute. You need to go, grab that statement. Sure, go over to that stack of papers in your office and grab it.
Let me chime in real quick. I
Yeah,
have
I'm
a
not
thought
so worried
on
about
this. So I kind of look at the relationship, and maybe my view is a little different than this rep who asked that question. Because when I mentioned I grew up in the industry, when I came into the family practice, my dad already had established relationships with estate planning professionals and tax professionals. And the way I kind of thought about it was I like to use a lot of analogies. So kind of I think about it as a doctor's office. So if I go into my GP, my general practitioner, and I say, Doc, I'm not feeling good because of XYZ, he asks a bunch of questions. And doctor says, all right, here's something. I think this might be the problem, but this isn't my area of expertise. I need you to see one of my colleagues. And I'm going to refer you over to the heart specialist, the whatever specialist, right? And I'm going to have them, and then you're going to come back to me and I'm going to follow up on it. I'm going to be involved in the process, but I'm not the one you're actually going to meet with, right? Me as the patient, that has happened to me multiple times where I've been referred to specialists for a myriad of different things. A person I've never felt uncomfortable with that. I've appreciated it. Hey, this isn't your area of expertise, but you have somebody on your team that it is, and they're going to help me, and you're going to be involved. I know you. I don't know this other person yet. I'm going to get to know them, and I'm hopefully going to get comfortable with them, right? And it's going to be a good experience, but you're going to be involved in that process. That's kind of how I see this. It's not just a handing off and being like done, out of sight, out of mind. Reps are going to be involved in the process. And so whether it's Katie or whether it's another estate planning professional, if anybody has had that relationship and they've referred, they can work very well, and it's actually a massive value add to the client. So I've been in wholesaling now for about almost 20 years. That entire time I've also been in the field as well, and I have clients, and I refer them to tax professionals, to people who I don't do Medicare supplements. So I have somebody that I refer to for Medicare supplements. I have this team of people that I can refer to for when clients need something that I don't personally do, but the clients come to me because they trust me, and I need to have somebody to refer and somebody that I know and trust. And that's where Katie and AEP come in, is they can be that estate planning person that you trust and refer to. And given that, Katie, maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but there are also opportunities where Katie gets in front of people who don't have financial advisors or somebody to work with that Katie can refer back to. Before AEP, I've referred to estate planning professionals. I can tell you, and I've given lots of referrals and taken over the last 20 years to estate planning professionals. I've gotten one referral back from estate planning professionals, and I've taken hundreds of people to estate planning professionals. So where Katie is more open and referring back and forth, the estate planning attorneys typically are a little hesitant to give referrals back. They are harder to get referrals from. Where this relationship with Katie, it's more of a two-way street. So I'd say to answer that question, it's not just going to be hey, go talk to this person. I'm not involved anymore. It's much more of a team approach, I think, than
Yeah,
just hand off and give somebody off to some
it's
random
it's
person.
definitely a warm handoff. It's not a
Yep.
cold process where you're going, hold on, let me set up an appointment with this random person.
Yep.
It's a warm process. It's a warm handoff.
For sure.
40% of our clients are referrals from completed estate plans.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's a
Yeah.
massive amount of referrals.
Yeah. That's,
I would love to have that kind of
I'd say we're
numbers
doing a
from
good
my
job.
clients. Yeah, you got that definitely. That's amazing. Glenn, I see it popped back in. I'm assuming you mentioned
Yeah,
it.
so I know we haven't even gotten to the webinar or the lead gen aspect of what you guys do. We're just talking about the core services that AEP provides. But one question, so before we move on to that section, how does this differ from Estate Guru? I don't know if you know Estate
Yeah.
Guru,
Yep.
but they keep on calling me to subscribe, they say. So how does this differ from Estate Guru?
I think it differs. It goes back to, I mentioned it earlier, doing something that is DIY, do it yourself, versus done for you. If
Yep.
you want to do it yourself, Estate Guru is a wonderful platform. Encore is a wonderful platform. Wealth is a wonderful platform. There are lots of great options out there if you want to do it yourself. But for those of you, this is something that I've put in just about every webinar that I've done over the last 6 years, which is a lot. Um, I've never ever heard of another profession where someone is expected to know it all, do it all, and do it extremely well.
Yep.
It is impossible for you to do all of the things, all of the value adds that people are looking for. It is impossible. How on earth could you manage your time? You could have about 10 clients and possibly achieve this. That's not practical. That's not feasible unless those 10 clients are, extraordinary. For the average advisor, that's not going to be something that's feasible. So what we're doing is saying, we're here to help you. I mean, we get paid when clients complete the plan. Our goal is to get clients in the door. We want clients to ask us to help them prepare their estate plan and implement their estate plan. And the only way that we can do that is by making you look great, making sure your clients are really happy and that an exceptional job has been done along the way. And we need to communicate with you to do that. But we don't need for you to do 90% of the work.
Yeah.
You need to do 10%. You need to tell us about the client. We need to understand what your thoughts are about their goals, wishes, intentions, any quirks that they might have, anything that comes to light that you think, oh my gosh, this is really important for you to know. That's what we want from you. And then we're going to work with you as we uncover assets along the way, as we uncover considerations. That's one of the value adds that we bring. I'm going to branch here for just a second. That's a value add that we bring to advisors, is that we're helping you find opportunities that may have otherwise gone missed. And that's not because the advisor did a bad job. That's because sometimes clients just don't tell you everything. And I talk to tons of advisors that say, oh, my clients tell me everything. Do they though?
Yeah.
Because I'm on the other side of this and I'm telling you that they're not. They're not telling you everything. And yeah, let's say they revealed all of their assets to you. Wonderful. Do you understand their family dynamics? Do you understand the nitty gritty that they maybe haven't wanted to discuss in their reviews with you? That's what we're getting into. And that's where we bring that relationship to a whole another level. We are here to strengthen your relationship and your bond. We are here to create a generational client for
Yep.
you. And again, we win when we get the estate plan. We're here to make you look like heroes.
I want to chime in real quick on that. So some of those things that the nitty gritty that they don't talk about, the family dynamics, if those things aren't being discussed with the financial advisor, if the client's not comfortable telling them or it doesn't come up, those are also can lead into missed planning opportunities on the financial side. Examples being when I've gotten in and had clients that'll open up on the nitty gritty, I find out things that there's concerns about children, certain children inheriting things, or how the assets, or they want to provide extra for one child. I had one actually where the parents wanted to provide for a child some extra, but didn't want the other kids to know about it. And they're like, we're not trying to, it's our money, but we feel bad not telling the other kids that we're providing extra. And so there are planning opportunities. There's even assets that can be set up. that money can be rearranged and a plan can be set up so that that child can be given a little extra, maybe from outside the estate or things like that. We've done that sometimes through purchasing a life insurance policy that the other kids don't know about, and the one child is just the sole beneficiary on it, and it's kept outside and nobody has to know. And it's funny because I've had clients that'll say, I feel bad about this, or and I say, don't feel bad. It's your money.
Yeah.
We don't really, we're not here to judge. We'll help you execute whatever you need. So those opportunities might be missed if you, the advisor, are trying to do the financial planning, the estate planning, the tax planning, do it all. I'm going to do the med subs. I'm going to, heck, the client passes away and we need to list the home for sale. So I'm going to go get my real estate license and I'm going to be the realtor on it. You can't do everything. And like Katie said, I felt the pressure of having clients the expectation that I should know everything and that I should be doing everything when it comes to all of it. And it's not true. And that's where my point being, those estate gurus, the wealth .coms, those where the advisor has to kind of sit in that estate planning seat. A lot of advisors aren't comfortable doing it, and they also don't know where that line is about what can I say and what can't I say. But they're given the software, the resources to execute, draft the documents, to go through that software with the client to do it. And so a lot of them are unsure about how to navigate that. You don't need to. Katie's here. AEP is here. They're
Yeah,
going to do
yeah,
it.
you don't need to do that. And our process isn't a client-driven process either. It is very much advisor-driven, AEP-driven. So we're not handing clients a link or emailing them a link that says, go fill this in. That's just giving them an opportunity for procrastination.
Yeah.
They don't need any more opportunities to procrastinate. Those opportunities that we're talking about, we're finding those by identifying issues that could negatively impact their estate plan along the way. These are brought up in a very natural way. We are teeing you up for success. So how this works is we're talking with the client. We're doing a discovery of assets because we need that to complete their estate plan. We have to have that to complete their estate plan. And on the backside, as we understand how they want things to happen, as we learn their intentions and their goals, those are our aha moments. Well, wait a second. I'm seeing opportunities for life insurance, long-term care planning. I'm seeing business succession issues. There are assets that are held away. And wait, this sounds like improper asset ownership. Let's talk about that. And these are easy ways for you to come into the conversation. And we're having this conversation with you before we put you in front of the client. We're saying, hey, John, whomever, this is what we're seeing. What are your thoughts on this? How do you want to approach this? Great. Perfect. We get it. We're going to go ahead and, work on our list of considerations from that. And we give the clients this list of considerations and we review it with them. And we say, now we need you to go back to your financial advisor and have this discussion. Let's all get together and let's get on the same page. Can we set that up for you now? And we already have your meeting links. We're scheduling this meeting for you. We are doing everything for you. We're trying to make this as simple as possible.
Hey, Katie, we're at about 40 minutes in, and so we've got a bunch of questions, but I think I'm
Okay.
going to hold most of them for the end. However, we do have a Kirk Brown raising his hand, so I'm going to allow him to talk. That's okay. And ask a question. Kirk, you can ask your question.
Sorry, I didn't realize I raised my hand.
Oh, okay.
I hate people who raise their hands. But anyway, I was just saying, so what are your fees for doing your estate plan?
So a 1675 for a will-based estate plan. That's whether it's an individual or a couple, and 3180 for a trust-based estate plan, and that's whether it's an individual or a couple. And again, that does include the deed transfer of their primary residence for most states. It also includes mobile notary services. The only thing the client needs to have on the day of their estate planning is a good attitude and the required number of witnesses. And if they don't have the required number of witnesses, our mobile notary service will actually arrange witnesses for them for a small additional fee.
Awesome. Do we have more questions, Glenn, you want to jump into?
Well, no, I was thinking it might be good for you guys to go ahead and continue with the agenda for now, and then we'll wrap up with questions at the end, get to everybody's questions. So I want to get to everybody, but we just like
we're
you
getting into
guys
the
to
fun
get to
stuff.
the next section, right?
Yeah, so I guess, Katie, we've only got maybe like 10 minutes or less, and I know we probably have a lot more to talk about. What what things do you think would be most helpful, beneficial for our advisors who are listening in right now to kind of cover? What would you like to kind of use up these last 10 minutes for? I know we had a lot to talk about, but we've been having a
I
fun
know one
discussion.
of our goals was to talk about unauthorized practice of law, feeling
Yeah.
comfortable. I think that we covered that earlier with asking good questions. I can summarize that a little bit. Good questions are, do you have an estate plan? Have you reviewed your plan recently? And who is your power of attorney financial? We talked about those. It can all be summed up into one thing. If you ask a client, do you have an estate plan? And they don't know anything about it, red flag. Red
Yep.
flag. Ask questions, red flag. And we actually have all of these questions built into our resources. So you can just go through and click and familiarize yourself with these questions. It's a 30-second thing. It's super simple, because there's really not that many that you need to ask to determine whether or not this person needs further review of their estate plan, or if they just need to talk about estate planning period because they haven't done it yet. Um, and then the other thing, red flags, that's always a, or warnings, things that clients, I think, worry about that they might not worry about, or areas where they go wrong. Sometimes advisors aren't necessarily familiar with the mistakes. What do you
I
think?
yeah, I like that. And that's for me, I think what it's funny. I have maybe I'm unique this way, maybe I'm not. I've had a lot of clients that when I ask, because that is something I learned early on was I lead with estate planning questions when I get introduced to somebody. So that's one of the first things I talk about. I would say the majority of people that I get in front of and I ask if they have an estate plan, a lot of time it's no. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
ask why, and they say, I don't know. It's one, do I need one? We've talked about it, but I don't think we fully understand what it is. And I can't tell you how many times I've been told I'm afraid to go see an attorney because I know the time clock starts, right? Isn't that how it works? They like hit the timer and then I start paying. And if I ask questions, I don't even know what the cost is. I don't know if I don't even know what questions I should be asking. And if they're recommending something, how do I know, right? So I'd say a lot of the people that I've even met with, a lot of them don't have an estate plan at all. And by asking that, again, it adds so much value and credibility to the advisor when they say, no problem. I've got somebody on my team who does that. Can I introduce them to you? Right? That's
Yeah.
like that is it, right? You don't have one. And I'll usually ask why. And it's usually just it's not because they don't think they don't need one. They don't even know where to start. And that's a lot of
Yeah.
times the concern. So I love that. One thing I do want to kind of make sure we talk through is maybe what role does the advisor play in this process, and kind of just again this kind of what I just said kind of leads into this. When they have somebody that they say, hey, I think I might have somebody, what's that process that they're going to go through with you? What role do they play in that process to make sure that
Yeah.
it gets taken care of?
So one is introducing your client to our services. We've got pre-built website copy. We have additional sections. Everything it's already built. We've got everything you need if you want to put estate planning services on your website. If you want to hand clients materials, everything's done. All you do is enter your name, and then our system pushes that everywhere it needs to be. So all you're doing is printing stuff out or emailing links. It's really very cool. But the advisor's role in the process is primarily in three different sections. So one is that initial intake. We need you to either get the intake to your clients for them to fill it out, or preferably you would be filling it out with them. And again, super basic information: name, phone number, email address. How are we going to contact this person? And then in that intake, which takes about 5 to 10 minutes, you're helping the client book their appointment right then and there. So this is a consultation, and we've got some free consultations for DMI's advisors. For others, it's usually a fee of $125, and that fee is then later applied to their estate plan should they choose to move forward. So that's a nice perk there. We're not just taking the consultation fee and then saying, okay, now you have to pay for your estate plan. Um, in the process, after we have that initial meeting with a client, well, before that, we've called you, and that's when we're asking, what are your intentions for the client? What are the client's intentions? What are your goals? What are their goals? What do you see? What do you think that the key concerns should be here? Is there anything you can give us, a tips, tricks to make the conversation go as well as possible? Because we want to bring the most value possible whenever we're meeting with a client, or you for that fact. And Then the latter portion is the considerations. When we start uncovering assets and we start seeing, issues, concerns, we need you to communicate with us so we can understand your strategy moving forward, your proposal moving forward. And then we are introducing that to the client together. Afterward, it is the implementation of the plan. And these are things that you would be doing no matter what. You should be doing these things whether the client uses AEP or your document preparation service or the local attorney. These are things that would be happening no matter what.
Yep.
And on the implementation side, it's, updating account ownership, retitling assets to the trust, which is something that we would work on together. And then we put together an excellent trust funding list. So everybody is getting assets, specific instructions, and without identifying too much. Our funding instructions are very well put together. We do take a lot of thought and consideration when it comes to securing this information. And then who is the responsible person for completing that task? And that's the biggest difference, is that you can quickly delineate between, is this the client's responsibility, the advisor's responsibility, or AEP's responsibility? Who's doing what, and communicating on that.
I love that. And that's the thing, I think, going back to that question earlier about just handing off to like kind of the third party service. And that's what this is more of, very much like I'd mentioned, that kind of team approach. And the advisors, are going to be working with you and the client, and it's going to be kind of a collaborative approach to get this done. And I like that. It also helps establish a better relationship with the client and the advisor when that happens. Mm-hmm. The advisor's involved and knows more what's going on, which then again goes back to solidifying that relationship and reduces the opportunity for that widow flight, right? And reduces the opportunity that this client might find another alternative option somewhere else, and in the meantime find another advisor.
I've sat on both sides of this table.
Yep.
And from my experience, I think I understand what advisors are looking for. Before we implement just about anything, the question I ask when I'm considering it is this something I would want as an advisor? Would I find this helpful? Would I find this to be a hindrance? If it's a hindrance, we're figuring out another way to do it. Yeah. We're absolutely here to be helpful and to give you tools and resources that are helpful, and to pull you into the process when it's needed without burdening you or asking you to do things that we could do ourselves. We want you to reap the rewards while we do the work. That's the beauty of this relationship.
And that was something I actually wanted to ask you. I think I had too many questions for the amount of time that we had. But I think something that you brought something up that probably a lot of people on here don't know, your background, that you were an advisor, that you sat in their seat for many years. You understand that. And that I want to point out the benefit of that. I think that's a massive benefit to the relationship. And the reason is that I've worked with estate planning attorneys who understand nothing on the side of the financial advisor side. And so there's, and along with tax professionals as well, they don't know the questions to ask, and they don't know what information is going to be helpful to the advisor if they uncover something. So they just go along doing their job as, I'm going to draft the estate documents and I'm going to take care of this and then I'm done. You understand what the advisor is looking for because you sat on that seat for many, many years. So you know exactly what the advisor is looking to do, and you know what information is helpful to be able to say, hey, by the way, there's this, and here's some information that would be helpful. You understand how that process works. So that is massively helpful, and I think that's a leg up that you have over pretty much all the other options out there for these advisors.
I think so too. Again, that's the done for you, but with the mindset of a former advisor, what I would want to have. And so I just quickly, when I was in your shoes, I would send clients out. They would spend thousands of dollars getting a plan. I would get the plan back. I would look at it and go, this works on paper, but this isn't going to work in real life. And here are the concerns I see. You can't make this stuff up. I sent my clients to an attorney, and now the attorney drafted the documents. The paralegal printed the documents. The client signed the documents, and none of them noticed that the document said insert name here in key areas. I mean, this is the level of detail that, and I'm not saying that that's an experience that, it's common. That's definitely uncommon. But documents come back with, entirely missing sections.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like, you're just missing your power section, and clients don't know what they're looking at. So asking if clients have an estate plan and taking their word for it, I would never do that. I would never do that in your shoes. And that's what started all of this, is that I started realizing, wait a second, I can't be alone in this and how I feel. And I'm not. So many of you are identifying issues, and what we built is a solution to them.
Yep.
And that's what I want you to see AEP as, is a solution to these issues.
Yep. No, I love that. I know we're coming up here on time, and I believe there's probably some additional questions. Pulled up saw some of the questions. Wanted to address something real quick. So there are going to be, I'm assuming, some estate planning that Katie, you probably can't take care of or won't, take care of, that
Absolutely.
things that will be need to be referred over to an attorney in their area who can handle that. I saw a question
Absolutely.
about being able to do some Medicaid planning. So there are probably going to be some things that come up where you say, this isn't the area that I focus on. I think I've heard you say before, this is really, your services are really good for, I'd say, probably 85-90% of the people out
Yeah,
there, right? That other percentage of people really need to go to somebody who specializes, like, for example, on the Medicaid planning. That's a very specific niche area within estate planning. And typically
absolutely.
those you go to a Medicaid planning attorney who specifically is doing that. So I would say, as I see this, kind of answer that question, if you have cases that come up and you want to say, hey, is this something that I can use AEP and work within? Can they handle this?
If you
This is
have,
something.
yeah,
Good.
if an advisor has a referral attorney or a particular attorney that they like referrals to go to, we can always add that to your notes and start speaking with you, obviously, in advance, saying, hey, we're not, the best fit, and here's what we've uncovered. A good example of that would be, an advisor sent me a client. This was actually just last week. And the client mentioned in the process that they want to disinherit one of their children. And
Hmm.
we don't touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
That's one of the most common ways that plans, or common reasons why plans are contested. So
Yep.
disinheriting children, spouses, if their assets are above or at the estate tax exemption limits, the families that want to give money to non-family caregivers, the disqualifying questions that I'm mentioning right now are almost identical across every platform that you could look
Yep.
at. Just to
Yep.
let you know, ours are the exact same,
Yep.
because we're using similar platforms to draft our documents. We're asking the same disqualifying questions.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing, is that I didn't realize you adding into the note that they have an attorney that they'd like to refer to. I love that. Where you
Yeah,
can already
yeah.
have that and have that be a part of the process. If it is a client that pops up that says, hey, this is one of the few that we wouldn't be able to, move forward and help. Let's get them over and referred to somebody that you have there in your area that you could refer these to. So that's awesome. I know we're at time, Glenn. So
Yeah,
can
one quick question. I was just wondering, do you want to mention anything about the lead gen type services, or
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I do. I
just
love this.
maybe just a 60-second treetop?
Yep.
Yeah, sure. So AEP has a lead generation tool for our advisors. So there's two different ways to partner with us. One is strictly just using us for our outsourced estate planning services, and the other is using us for lead generation services. So we have built a great tool that is a trust versus wills quiz. And from that, we are able to help you mine for leads. And this can be either from your list of prospects that you already have. We're working with 8Digit to help you create a marketing strategy around this and help produce new leads from it. This is a great tool that you can use with current clients. Advisors that work with our lead gen tool have their own unique address for it. So anybody that uses your quiz, let's say that it gets picked up on social media and passed around, anybody that uses that quiz, you're getting the lead results from that quiz. And the quiz lead results are sent, one, not only to you, the advisor, through a dashboard, a back end that's super easy to use. It's wonderful. Glenn, I'm going to send you a request to share if that's okay.
Yep.
All right, cool. I will just share my screen really quickly. All right, so this is an example. This is our sample dashboard. This is what one of the leads, this is our sample lead that we use. this Jordan sample. You can see the info, and the way that we collect this information is really creative, and it's not cumbersome for the client. So we're gathering all of this, we're giving it to you, and our system can take just about any meeting plan or meeting software that you're using. So whatever it is, you pop in your meeting link. It allows us to schedule appointments if we're already working with the client on your calendar. It allows them, the lead and end user that might not be a client or a prospect already, to schedule time on your calendar. They can schedule meetings with us together. It's really very intuitive, very simple. But look at this information. When I said I'm trying to do things that I would want as a former advisor, I would want this information, and I can tell you I want this information because I paid a lot of money to get this information. And we are letting you do this for free. So you can pop this on social media. You can use it however, but if you really want to market and generate leads from it, we have um, a wonderful system going with 8-digit and DMI to do that. So please ask Tyrell about that.
It really is smooth. Hey, you know what? By the way, I'm going to take over the sharing rights real quick because I want to
Yeah,
share
go for it.
Tyrell's contact information. So people are asking, hey, should we contact you directly or are y'all going to reach out? So I think there are a lot of open questions we still have that we won't be able to get to. Tyrell, I might send those to you so
Yep,
you can follow up with those folks.
for
But
sure.
please reach out to Tyrell, though. Use this QR code here on screen to get his contact information. His phone number is 781-919-2368, 781-919-2368, and your email is tjensen@dmi.com. Of course, you could also go to Advisors EP website that I put in the contact information or in the chat window. But Tyrell, did you also have a comment? I saw you were raising your hand. So
I didn't mean to. I actually, I bumped
You
it.
and Kirk.
I'm like, so don't feel bad, Kirk. I did it too. But no, I really appreciate you, Katie, taking the time to be here with us,
Thanks.
lend
Thanks
your
for having me.
experience and your company. I full-heartedly believe in estate planning, and it's one that I have found to be a massive benefit to the reps that I work with when they implement it within my own practice and my family's practice. It has been a massive benefit, and it has really, honestly, taken my relationships with those clients of mine that I do the estate planning with to the next level. But it's also helped open opportunities. I have found it is actually one that has been a massive referral opportunity for me. It's harder to say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, you probably have loved ones who could benefit from my services, and I'd love to work with your friends and family to help them financially. And then the client's like, it's a little awkward to me to talk about their finances. I found estate planning is not. Hey, probably have loved ones that may or may not have their estate plan set up, and if something were to happen to them, without their power of attorney set up, without the legal documents set up, it can really be a problem for them. Do you have any loved ones that probably should talk with me and allow me and Katie to work with them? Oh yeah,
Our
yeah.
case
Then I
study
can
is
get into
perfect for that.
yeah, and then I can get into the
Yeah.
financial side after that. But it's a great way to open the door that is less intrusive and that clients are much more likely to refer to than a financial referral. So just a massive opportunity. So I appreciate all of you who came and gave us your time today to listen and be a part of it. Would love to chat with you all. So if you have questions, reach out to me. If you have unanswered questions, reach out to me. I can get you in contact with Katie as well, and we can go from there.
Are we going to hang on and answer anything, or are we?
If we've got questions that if anybody who wants to stick around, we can if you're good with it, Glenn and Katie, we can take a couple more
yeah, we
minutes.
can do that if you want to. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
let's go
okay.
for it.
I'm happy to answer any questions. One of the things that we mentioned our case study earlier on, and I wanted to point out that that's exactly what happened with that case study. Is that from this estate? So, and DMI's has a blog on it, which is great, and take a look at it if you haven't done so already through its blog under DMI University. The clients that had that $14,000 529 that turned into one question changed this entire experience at the end. And it was, do your guardians have the ability to do what you were asking them to do? And the answer was, no. and how do we plan for that? And that led to so many opportunities, and the guardians are now, entering conversations with the advisor. I mean, it got to the point where they were dragging their children in to meet, us and the advisor. It was really this very cool experience. So getting introduced to the people that are integral in the plan is definitely, the referrals are a wonderful added bonus to the estate planning process.
For sure.
One question was, can you provide service in all 50 states? And then another question was, can you do face-to-face meetings? Somebody has a notary, and could they use that notary in a face-to-face meeting?
Oh, I love that question so much. You guys have had some great questions today. So, when we have client signings, we will join remotely, and we will be there to walk everybody through the signing, including the notary if they have questions. The notaries that we use, though, are very familiar with the estate planning process and estate planning signings. For some of them, that's all they do. So we want clients to use our mobile notary, unless it's somebody that, my sister is a notary. Could my sister do it? Yeah, sure. We'll let your sister do it. But if it's my friend's neighbor or, so and so down the street, we really want them to use our mobile notary service. I've been doing this for years, and I can tell you that that is one of the most common hiccups that we have in planning, is using their notary. Clients have the misconception that their bank will do this for them. Their bank will not notarize these documents for them. So the process, again, is designed to avoid any hiccups. So things that we'll do in person, if you want me to come out to the steak dinner and lead an estate planning workshop, let's plan it. I'll be there. But as far as estate plannings and signings, we have this down to a science. So usually primarily those are remote.
Then are there any states that you can't do estate plans in?
Nope, we're available in every state. There are a few states that I will tell you make it much more difficult and require some additional legwork. And not on your part, but on ours. So it will work with you. If you're in one of those states, we'll explain to you the nuances of that state. Maybe we can't pull the deeds. Maybe you're in Virginia, and we're going to have to tell you, hey, when we're working with clients there, we can't pull property deeds. So we're going to need the client to provide the deed for us. Or, maybe there's an issue when it comes to a specific nuance of the probate processes in that state. And we might discuss that with you as well. There's always a way to navigate them, and we're happy to work with you to do that. So no, we'll work in any state, but there are certain states where I think the process is, there's an extra step or two, and we'll identify those for you. And again, you're not doing 90% of the work, we are. So when I say an extra step, just know the extra step isn't on you. it's on us or potentially the client.
Awesome. Any other notable questions, Glenn?
One question, is material and AEP approved by Osaic Wealth?
I don't think so, but I'm happy to send them anything that they need. If you want us to work with your compliance department, we can get anything over. You just have to let us know. And if they're looking for something specific, we're happy to work with them. Just about everything that we have, you can modify. So if you click on a specific marketing tool, any copy or text that's in it, if it's something that might pertain to you or your firm, you're able to edit it. So if they want a disclosure in there, it's pretty simple to pop in that disclosure. And with our lead gen tool, that's one of the first things that it will cover. And if you decide to move forward with us and use the lead gen tool, you read it from right to left. And the first thing, like within the first two tabs, it's branding and disclosures, and it's very intuitive. We've got a little pop-up at the top that says, do this first, do this second, now do this. It's really very simple to use. There's not a lot of there's not a 15-minute demo video that you've got to watch. We'll talk through it together. The conversation will happen organically, and touch base on things that are specific to you.
And
I'm sure Tyrell could help in a one-on-one conversation with that individual.
Yep. And I was just going to say, as far as using Katie's services there, and Katie, you can maybe speak better to this. It's not the same as saying, like, do I need to go get wealth.com approved with my BD because I, as the advisor, am going to be doing it. This is just a referral over to a to Katie as a service. So I don't think if the rep was asking that side of the question, they're not going to be the one using the software and providing those services like they would with another service like a wealth.com type situation where they probably would have to get that approved through their.
Yeah, exactly. So sorry, I've got a sore throat. So the tool is a little bit different because clients, or excuse me, advisors have the ability to embed that in their website. So that's why we have that disclosure opportunity in there. But with the marketing tools, those are all pre-prepared. There is absolutely nothing in them that is specific legal advice. It is general advice. I would say that the documents are highly intuitive as well. So if you wanted to turn these over to your compliance department, I seriously doubt they would have any issue with that. But again, these are our documents that we're using. So I see where Tyrell's coming.
Here's another question kind of related to what we discussed before. Maybe this will offer some clarity though. What's the client's first experience when referred to you? Is there a Zoom meeting or another way to reduce friction or drop off? I mean, I think we kind of answered that, but if you could just clarify.
Yeah, so there's two different reasons people come to us. One is that they're telling you, I want to talk about estate planning. And you, being the smart, savvy advisor that you are, saying, oh, I know somebody that can talk to you about estate planning. And this is, their area of expertise, not mine. Let me do this nice form handoff and let me get you to them. And they'll explain all the general things that you need to know about estate planning so you can make a decision moving forward as to what plan type you might want. Or just ask your general questions, because right now you're just thinking about it. Maybe you're not ready to move forward. Then we've got a client that's ready to move forward. And that client is coming to us and they're helping us create this intake, or they're completing the intake. They're giving us the information that we need, and we're discussing plan pricing. And that is done through a Zoom. All of our meetings are done through Zoom, 99% of them. So I think that the first interaction for a client is unique in the fact that we're able to derive so much from just a little bit of information. We're able to give them specific plan pricing, address their concerns. I like to start each meeting off with, everybody's a little bit different. My personal thing is, what can I do to bring the most value to you today? If we were to discuss 3 things beyond general information today, things that are, concerns to you, what are those concerns? And that, I think, makes the interaction valuable, worth their time, and it's a friendly approach for sure.
And do you have the advisor on the call in some cases?
Some clients want to meet with their advisor present. Other clients do not. It's rare that we have a client that says, I don't want my advisor in the room. But every once in a while, there's something that's sensitive and personal, and they really just don't want their advisor present. It's too personal. And that could be a health-related concern, maybe some sort of family dynamic issue. Maybe they're contemplating a divorce and you're friends with their husband. It could be a multitude of reasons. So, we will tell you if that is the case. We'll say, hey, this one, kid gloves, like give me a minute and we'll fill you in if we can on what's happening. But let us take this one. And more often than not, we're still sharing information with you along the way. I think I've had 2 clients that have said, I don't want my advisor to know anything that you're doing here. Like, well, they have to know part of it. We can't do this without them. So, sorry, but we're going to have to work with them. It really is just a unique experience. And if if in this conversation, if you have had a client in your mind, you're like, oh man, that reminds me of so-and-so, chances are that's the perfect person to start with. And setting up a meeting with them, if you've got your annual reviews that you're starting or quarterly reviews, start asking, do you have an estate plan? And if clients are saying, yeah, I have a plan. Okay, what can you tell me about it? Well, nothing. Red flag. Or I don't know, I haven't looked at it in a couple of years. Red flag. And if they need you to ask another, prompt or push there, or if you need to, push for a little bit more information, a great way to do that is to say, who is your power of attorney financial? And then explain how you work with that financial power of attorney in understanding that the trusted contact that you use on your paperwork can't do anything. I mean, they can inform me about your well-being, but they can't actually help me manage these financial assets if you can't do so for yourself. So I need to know this information and I need to see your beneficiaries. And I mean, it rarely goes beyond that with clients saying, no, I'm not, move on, new subject. And they're like, oh, really? Let's talk about that.
Well, appreciate all the responsiveness, Katie, and then the engagement from everybody that joined today. I think we had close to 40 questions today.
Wow.
That might be a record. So, yeah, I feel like we've covered the questions pretty well. Tyrell, I think there's some people here you probably want to follow up with.
Yep.
I'll send
Perfect.
you that contact information, or at least I'll send you the questions. I don't have the
Perfect.
contact information.
Thanks, Glenn.
But outside of that, guys, I think we probably ought to wrap it up for the
Yeah.
day. And we've all finished our coffee and had a good time. And Katie, thanks for being here. I think we're going to probably want to do another one of these in the future. Maybe we focus a little bit more on the marketing tool next time. Also,
Yeah.
we're going to be developing a lot of content and having like video interviews between Katie and Tyrell and that kind of thing in the future with some evergreen websites set up on the DMI side to explain all this. So more to come, and we will follow up with recording here and details after the webinar. So in the next 48 hours or so. All right, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Really
Bye, guys.
appreciate it. Take
Take
care.
care.
Have a great Wednesday.